Ian Murray is Scotland's only Labour MP and a candidate to be the party's deputy leader. And guess what? Mr Murray joins me in the studio. Very good morning to you. Just, of course, speaking to Len McCluskey of Unite there. Disappointed not to get the nomination, get the support from Unite?
Well, I didn't expect to get the support from Unite, but I'm disappointed that I've not got the support of any trade unions yet, but we're working very hard on that. We've had very lively hustings, we've discussed the issues, and I've been very clear to everyone who's got a vote in this leadership contest that if they want continuity, which is what I think Len McCluskey was offering there in his interview, not to vote for me, I have to be the change candidate because the country are screaming out for the Labour Party to change.
What, in your view, is the job of the deputy leader of the Labour Party? Because in Len McCluskey's view, in his own words, above all, it is to show loyalty to the leader.
Well, it's to organise the party, and that's one of the reasons I've decided to stand, because I win my marginal seat by building a broad coalition of support by organisation. I want to take that across the whole of the party. And yes, the deputy leader should unite the party and be loyal to the leader, but should also be a critical friend. If you're going to be the voice of the membership and the voice of the trade unions and the affiliates and the Labour movement, sometimes you'll have to have those hard conversations with the leader as well. So it's a critical friend, but a loyal friend as well.
In terms of, as I was discussing with Mr McCluskey, that the Board of Deputies pledges, should those that refuse to sign up to that, should they even be standing in this contest?
Well, there's a much wider issue here, actually. It's not really just about the Board of Deputy pledges, which I have signed. It's about all of the Jewish organisations and communities coming together to try and help us to find a system to rid the Labour Party of the cancer of anti-Semitism. Never again should we be going into an election where you knock on a door and somebody says they're not voting for the Labour Party for the first time in their life because of anti-Semitism.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying. That should Dawn Butler be in this contest? Should Richard Bergen be in this contest? Given that anti-Semitism, as you know, was an issue on the doorstep, that it is still an issue around Labour's neck? Well,
I would encourage people to not bury their heads in the sand with this anymore. The key thing for a deputy leader has to be to take some of these issues on, and I've pledged that if I do become deputy leader, I want every single case of anti-Semitism and other bullying and harassment claims in the party on my desk every week to make sure they're being dealt with, and then look at if we can work with the Jewish community and the Jewish organisations to provide a better system to make sure they're dealt with effectively. And I think people should take their head out of the sand and just deal with this. There's no longer should a Labour Party be walking on the other side of the street when minority communities in this country are screaming out for the Labour Party to do something that's in the national interest and their interest, and that's to rid the party of the cancer of anti-Semitism. It's as simple and straightforward as that.
So, go on. What do you offer that the other candidates in this contest don't?
Well, I offer a number of things. The first thing is that I do win my marginal seat by building that broad coalition of support. One of the best things that's ever been said to me was I only win my seat by getting Liberal Democrat and Tory voters to vote for me. Well, that seems to me campaigning 101. I want to do that right across the country. I'm also bringing that Scottish voice. I think it's important for the Labour Party to send out the message to all the nations and regions of the United Kingdom that they matter. They told us during the election campaign and in the run-up to the 12th of December that they didn't think the Labour Party cared about them. And the third thing is I want to take on this big issue of the Constitution. We need to see where power lies in this country in a post-Brexit Britain, and that's why I'd like to launch the Labour campaign for Britain's future, which isn't just about where power lies within the nations and regions of the United Kingdom, but how power lies with our relationship with the European Union and the wider international community.
But is it possible for any deputy leader, you included, to advocate for Labour once again being a rather broader church, to looking to taking votes from the Liberal Democrats and the Conservatives that you will need if you're going to get back into number 10? If the leader is not of a similar mindset, if there is an ideological purity that's being pursued in favour over simply getting into number 10?
Well, we have to either be a credible alternative government or a diminishing party of perpetual opposition, and we have to be the former. And to be the former, all those people that didn't vote Labour on the 12th of December have to change their vote and put their cross in the Labour box. There's a lot of work to be done there, and we have to listen to what the public are telling us, and that's what I want to do. We should go to the seats that we lost, the seats that we won, even the seats that we've never won, to listen to what the public are saying and mould the Labour Party around Labour Party values, to put a programme in front of them that they feel as if they want to reconnect with. The scale of the challenge is huge. If we only return one Scottish Labour MP at the next election, we will have to win Jacob Rees-Mogg's seat in North East Somerset. That's a 13% swing. That's unparalleled and unprecedented in electoral history, not just in this country, but in most countries across the Western world. So that is the scale of the challenge, and unless we face up to that challenge, we will never win again.
How do you, as a party, regain your footing in Scotland, given the absolutely apocalyptic scenes this election, given the party's stance on Brexit and Scotland's view of Brexit, given the party's view of dare I say it, a second independence referendum. How do you get them back?
Well, the key thing here is the party should never face both ways on these big constitutional issues, because principally we're against independence for Scotland because we don't think it's in the national interest, and principally we were against Brexit because we don't think it's in the national interest. The next 12 months will decide whether or not we were correct or wrong on the Brexit
And you
issue.
don't see an inconsistency with, saying no to leaving between those two positions. I mean, are there any circumstances in which you yourself would say, fine, a second independence referendum should and will now be granted?
Well, that's not for me to decide. And I think whilst we're talking about procedural issues and the process stories here, we're missing the big issues around actually what Scottish independence would mean for Scotland. So I would rather we talked about why we're principally against independence and the reasons why we're behind it, rather than the technicalities of Section 5 of the Scotland Act of 1998, that nobody knows what's in it, and the Section 30 that would be required.
Well, just on that, I mean, if the SNP got a majority in 2021 at the Scottish Parliament, would they then be allowed to have a second independence referendum?
Well, that would be up to the Prime Minister to decide, but we'll be doing everything we possibly can to make sure that they don't have... Well, we go into hypothetical scenarios. I mean, Sir John Curtis, who's no doubt the UK's most prominent polling expert, has said that you can't extrapolate the election results of the 12th of December into saying that anyone's got a mandate for calling another independence referendum. In fact, status quo is essentially the answer that he's come to.
Scottish Parliament in 2021. The only reason I'm asking all of this is that sometimes it strikes me that people are opposed to a second independence referendum at all costs. Yet, I wonder, if I were to ask you whether or not there should be a vote about us re-entering the European Union, you might have a different view on that.
Well, the bottom line here is that you've got to be principally against something or principally for something. I think it's incumbent on the Labour movement to have a much more positive view, not just on the United Kingdom and why Scotland should be part of the United Kingdom, but our outlook to the rest of the world. And the next 12 months will determine what that should look like. It's an incredibly important debate for us to have, and I should be leading that debate as the deputy leader of the party. But the key thing here in terms of whether or not someone should have a referendum, if we just think back to David Cameron back in 2013, he didn't really want an EU referendum, but he bet the entire farm on an EU referendum and lost. And therefore, if we disagree with the ends, let's not facilitate the means when we're principally against it. And we're doing everything we possibly can, not only to prevent an SNP majority in 2021, but to deliver a Labour government in Scotland. I'm
going to be slightly cheeky here, and I wonder whether, as Labour's kind of sole Scottish representative in the Commons, you are the best person to lead that particular argument, given that there is one rather big skeleton in your closet, or rather, I should actually say, suit, if we can bring up the picture, suit in your wardrobe. What's this all about?
Well, I can tell you exactly the story about this.
Sorry, I'm getting palpitations here.
This has followed me around for years, and it was a bit of fun. I was at Glastonbury, and I'm going to do an advert for you because we're on Sky, not the BBC.
Right.
There's a company called Opposuits that go to Glastonbury every year. I was going, and what you can do, you can get a picture of your wedding, you can get a TV test card, you can get Dayglow Orange. And I was leafing through, and they said, "Look, what size are you?" And I said, "I think I'm a 42. They went, "Well, try this on." And that was the only 42 they had. I tried it on.
You only need to be caught in a zip line waving two Union flags.
We got a photograph taken, and of course I said that photograph should never go anywhere. And of course at Glastonbury, after a few ciders, you tend to be a little bit more looser with your Twitter feed, and it's followed me around ever since. But Pete Wishart, the MP for Perth and North Perthshire, I love you for having that photograph on.
Look, I mean, it is related, but
that's a story whether you believe it or not.
I do believe. I believe you. The relevance of this, of course, is the big dividing line between Scotland and England has, for a time, been Brexit. So, what hope does Scottish Labour have of avoiding an increased push for independence without a better position as to what happens regarding Brexit? Well,
the first thing is, in terms of Brexit, the next 12 months will determine what happens. And everything that now happens over the next 12 months lies firmly at the door of number 10 and Boris Johnson's promises that he's made to the electorate. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we have to set the bar really high in terms of what Brexit should now look like. It can't just be about stopping no deal, which is important. We must be setting the bar high in terms of workers' rights, consumer rights, environmental protections, security and safety of the UK. And the third thing is all the wrong-headed arguments that myself and the SNP have been making together over the last 3 years in terms of how Brexit is bad are exactly the same wrong-headed arguments against Scottish independence, a border between the two nations, a separate currency, a relationship with your closest and best trading partner, which is England. So these issues are exactly the same in a Scottish context as they were arguing against Brexit.
I mean, you've said it before, but I wonder if you'll say it again, that your view is, in essence, that there should be less top-down control of the Scottish Labour Party, but not autonomy. Why not?
Well, the Scottish Labour Party has complete autonomy already. People misunderstand this. There's been a process since 2011 that previous leaders have taken through, and the autonomy is not used. So why don't we use all of the autonomy of the Scottish Labour Party first, and then see where that goes? However, I want to, as Deputy Leader, not just look at how we govern the country and how many parts of the people of this country can govern themselves over the course of the post-Brexit Britain within the UK context, but the Labour Party has to do the same too and give much more power to regional directors and regional offices. But it's very similar to the Scottish Parliament. The SNP don't use the full autonomy they have at the Scottish parliamentary level, and we don't use the full autonomy we have at the Scottish Labour Party level. Let's use them, let's do it properly, let's reform the internal workings of the Labour Party and try and win the next election.
Ian Murray, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much indeed.